Hello, welcome to the Scratch coding class. In this video I'll be explaining how to create your own sprite on Scratch, and if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. But let's get started. So this is the paint. You choose a sprite and then you go paint, and this comes up, and then we can worry about each of these functions separately. These two I'm not going to talk about right now. This one, simply you can draw whatever you want. So let's say I choose a nice that's a light blue, and you can of course adjust the thickness. I'm going to do a thickness of 15, and I'm simply just going to draw just a computer. It's not going to be a good one, right? That is what is maybe a computer, and we can of course erase parts of this out. So using the erase function, this is basically a very small eraser. If I want to make the eraser bigger, I can change the radius of the circle. Let's say I go 60. Look at that. Slightly bigger, and we can just erase parts of that out, and of course we can redraw that again, like so. This fill function I will come back to later. This is basically text, and you can type whatever you want. Change the color here. If you do no color, I don't think it shows up. And then you can choose all these fonts, and there's even there's Chinese and Japanese down there, but I don't know any, so I'm just gonna do, let's go handwriting, and I'm just gonna do simply let's choose a different color so it stands out. I'm gonna do purple, and I'm just gonna do Scratch, and then that comes up. It's too small, I want it bigger. Basically choose one of these corners and you make it bigger. Of course make it a bit wider and taller if you want. This plus in the middle, you use that to move the text around. This basically rotates it, and I believe you can actually reflect the text like so by holding the corner. It's quite hard to explain, but it's doable. And now we have a nice Scratch on our computer screen. This is basically a line function, so you can draw lines. So let's say I do a thickness of about 14 this time. I'm going to choose I'm going to choose a cyan color, right? So, and I'm basically going to redraw the keyboard. How you do this? Basically, you can. It will already draw a straight line for you. Don't have to worry. Look at that. That's way better than my keyboard. And if you want just a vertical line, you can hold Shift, and it does that very good. You can do 8 directions with Shift, but I just use it for vertical and horizontal lines, so I'm actually going to use the Shift function right here. Look at that, that's way better than when I drew it. That is a better computer there. And we can of course erase all that, everything I've drawn out, like so. Okay, so that's probably a better computer right there. This fill function, you basically fill stuff in. So let's say if I draw a circle using this function, so let's go and do fill circle. I'm gonna draw a circle here, and basically using the fill, you can of course fill the circle. I'm gonna do a red. There we go. I don't think that's a red. I think that's like sort of like a pink, but it doesn't matter. And more about this function, it's not always a circle. It can be an oval. So basically you can you have to it depends on where you hold the mouse pointer is. So the mouse pointer is out at the right, so the circle is going out at the right, and you can do a perfect circle by holding Shift, and that is basically how you do that. And a square, very similar. You can do rectangles and all. If you want a perfect square, you simply just do that. Let's say if I don't want the square there, I can simply move it using this pointer I mentioned at the start, and you can of course make it bigger. So now we have a very cool computer screen. So that is basically everything in the vector thing in Scratch. I'm explaining bitmap and vector later. So if we convert to bitmap, just notice what happens. You can really only see this once. As you can see, it's not as clear as it was in vector. So bitmap now basically is images are made out of pixels, and bitmap basically tells the computer what every single pixel is. If you look very closely, those tiny squares, well, they are examples of pixels. they're only like that right there is probably about 2 pixels. It just really depends. So look how small a pixel is in Scratch. So we can obviously just zoom out a wee bit because we don't need to explain any more of that. And vector basically is lines and curves, all that. You probably heard of a vector quantity before, and that's basically very similar to what it is in IT. So as you can see, it's not as clear on the left. Look at the symbols, they just don't look nice, but exact same function. I personally like using bitmap mode, but vector mode is perfectly fine. And there are lots of different uses, websites and all, that you choose between bitmap and vector. You don't always have to use bitmap or vector. As you can see at the top here, well, it sort of changed. Unlike vector, you could, I'll go back to vector and look at the fill and the outline. In bitmap, it basically you get to choose filled or outline, which I probably like better. And we've already explained everything. We've done text. No, you can't type Chinese unless you have a Chinese keyboard. I was just wondering. Okay, let's just do a pixel. I'm gonna try coding this time. It's a very good example of what bitmap is. It's very pixelated. So that's basically, there's probably about thousands of pixels on your computer. Obviously, if you have a phone, there's gonna be less pixels in it because the computer is bigger. And we've already explained the fill function. The eraser function is the exact same. This is basically those mices, that mouse at the top, that mouse pointer. This is basically the exact same. You have to draw a square around it, and then you just move it about wherever you want. And that is basically everything you really need to know about drawing and designing your own sprites. And I've done a rubbish drawing here, but there it is. So anyway, thanks so much for watching this video for the Scratch coding class, and if you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe if you find it helpful, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.